Good evening. Today we're beginning the 14th chapter of Tanya. I once heard of an enlisted soldier, and he enlisted to be a paratrooper. So he was training, and finally it comes to the ultimate test. You have to jump. So they go up on a plane, and he loved being in the company of the paratroopers. They're a fun group. They like to jump from planes. It's not regular guys. And they're up on the plane, and their sergeant tells them, "Okay, Joe, jump." Joe jumps. "John, jump." "Goldberg, jump." They're all jumping, one after the other. And the 10th man, who's the last one to go, this is Mo. He says, "Hey, Mo, jump." He looks. "I can't." He says, "Jump, you have to jump." "I can't." And if you're, I have to be the last one out. If you're not going to, I'm going to jump, and then you're going to, then you're not a paratrooper. "I can't." All right, the sergeant jumps because you have to follow all of your soldiers, and the plane lands. And Mo gets off. Sergeant lets him have it. He says, "You're a man. You want to be a paratrooper. You have to be ready to jump, no matter how high the plane is, and you have to have that confidence. Give me another chance." Goes up, second time. A couple of days later, "Joe, jump." Joe jumps. "Jack, Goldberg, McKinley," they're all jumping. "Mo, jump." "I can't." "Jump." "I can't." Okay, this is it. One more chance. Third time they go up on the plane. "Joe, McKinley, Goldberg, jump." Everyone jumps. "Mo, jump." "I can't." They land, the sergeant tells them, "You're out. You can't be a paratrooper. If you can't jump, you can't be a paratrooper." "Oh, come on." So I don't understand. If you can't jump, why do you want to be a paratrooper? So he says, "I can't jump, but I love paratroopers. They're so much fun." He loves to be between paratroopers. He likes the culture of paratroopers, but he can't jump. He can't jump. He's not a paratrooper. Now, here we're going to speak about the Beinoni. Now, the Beinoni is a title. It's a status. And we learned about the Beinoni already from chapter 12, and we went through 13, and now we're starting chapter 14. It's a certain personality. It's a certain status. And we studied the Beinoni, and we see he's a very accomplished, spiritually accomplished personality. He doesn't sin. It's possible he never sinned, but he's not a tzaddik because he doesn't despise evil. He's not a tzaddik because he still has evil in him, in his impulses, his desires. But he always overcomes his desires and does what's right. So on the inside, he is even like a Rasha who does have inside of him desires to do evil. And nevertheless, on the outside, in his behavior, practically speaking, bottom line, his actions are of a tzaddik. We went into more of the psychology of the Beinoni. The Beinoni is so committed to doing what's right that it wouldn't enter his mind to actually do wrong. He'll entertain the idea in the sense that he'll have desire to perhaps do what's wrong, but he has made a resolution, and he's resolute about it, that he's committed, that he won't do wrong, even though in his heart he has those desires. So he is a warrior. So now in the 14th chapter, the Alter Rebbe is getting down to bottom line. And he's pointing his finger and he says, you are a Beinoni. There's that in the World War II, there was the sign, Uncle Sam wants you. And here the Alter Rebbe points his finger and says, I wrote this book for you. And you have to strive to be a Beinoni because your goal is Beinoni. Beinoni wants you. And how are we going to handle this? So in the beginning of the 14th chapter, Perek Yudalet, V'hinei midas ha-Beinoni hi midas kol adam v'acharei kol adam yimshech. This characteristic, the character of the Beinoni, or the characteristics of the Beinoni, applies to every man, and every man should make it his goal. He should strive. Acharei kol adam yimshech. He should strive and be drawn to go in that direction of being a Beinoni. Shekol adam yachli is Beinoni b'chol eisa b'chol shah. Because any time, in any moment, every person can be a Beinoni. Now the scholars of Tanya have tried to understand what he says over here, that the quality of a Beinoni, midas ha-Beinoni, is midas kol adam, it's applies to everybody. When we already learned that the Beinoni is a person who is basically never sins, and he's still a Beinoni. So if a Beinoni never sins, and it's possible a person never sinned and he's still a Beinoni personality, he's not a tzaddik. So, but that doesn't apply to every man. Most people are on a roller coaster. There are days that they sin, and there are days they don't sin. Some people, their roller coaster is really nasty, and they go really low, and they go back up. And other people, it's not that low. Their sins are lesser. That's most people. And the Alter Rebbe calls that, in chapter 11, the Rasha v'Toivloi. So practically, looking on the checklist, almost everybody is a Rasha v'Toivloi because he sins from time to time and not a Beinoni. So how does he say that this is midas kol adam? That is a standard that applies to every man. So one of the approaches to resolve this question is that up until now we spoke about madregas ha-Beinoni, and now we're speaking about midas ha-Beinoni. A madrega is a status. It's a total personality, and that is rare. It's indeed rare, the personality of a Beinoni, where he reached that status that he's so committed that he will not sin, notwithstanding the inner demons that he may have in his heart. But the Beinoni, the one who reached the status of Beinoni, madregas ha-Beinoni, is someone his character and his personality is that much developed that he's committed not to sin, notwithstanding his inner struggle. But there's a difference in character and characteristics. Midas ha-Beinoni is part of his character, is the characteristics of the Beinoni. What the Alter Rebbe is saying, the behavior pattern of the Beinoni, we all can do at any given moment. So at a moment's notice, and in whatever situation you are, act like a Beinoni. Because you see the Beinoni, he has the same struggle that you have. So you're both in a situation, and the Beinoni is not like the tzaddik, who the tzaddik, it worked on himself so much that he would not even be respond or be attracted to sin. But then one might ask himself, well, here's the tzaddik. He's not responding to what I see over here, but I'm attracted to this. And we say to this regular guy, okay, you're not the tzaddik, because the tzaddik is not even attracted to this. So therefore, you're not going to do what the tzaddik is going to do. But look at the Beinoni. The Beinoni in his heart is attracted to this sinfulness exactly like you are. And the Beinoni controls himself. Learn from the Beinoni how to control himself now in this moment. That's what it means, midas kol adam. It is the characteristic of every man, because no matter who you are, you can control yourself. And that's the fundamental point that he's making about the Beinoni. No matter what the situation is, don't say you cannot control yourself. You're responsible for your actions, no matter what situation it is. And that we learn from the Beinoni. And he says over here, Shakol Adam Yachali is Beinoni b'chol eis u'b'chol sha'a. Any moment and every time you could be a Beinoni. Which is an interesting line. It reminds me too, a wise man that was asked, what is the most important time in your life? So some say, when I was in my 20s, that was great. Another one says, my retirement, that's the greatest. But a wise man says, the most important time of my life is now. Now is the most important time of my life. Because now is in my hands to define. What am I doing with my now? And therefore, the Alter Rebbe says that now you can be a Beinoni. But I'm a regular guy, and yesterday I was just wasting time, and tomorrow, I don't know what I'm planning to go chew gum and watch Super Bowl, whatever. whatever. I'll lose my mind when I'm watching Super Bowl. If I bet, I didn't bet all of Mishigas, whatever. So he's saying, forget about tomorrow, forget about yesterday. Now you're in a situation. Now you could be a Beinoni. But I'm a Rasha. Yesterday I did a sin. Now you can be B'chol Eisa B'chol. Now you can be a Beinoni. But I have such a Yetzer Hara burning in my heart. So does a Beinoni. Learn from the Beinoni. Now you can do what's right. That's what it means. It is midas kol adam. Everyone is capable of being a Beinoni. Now he's going to go into details, and then he's going to give techniques. The Beinoni does not despise evil. He doesn't find evil despicable. So sin to him may be attractive. It's certainly not despicable. So now you're getting into tastes. What are my tastes? What do I think is good or bad or ugly? So that has to do with my inner character. So when it comes to things that have to do with my heart and my feelings, so then it depends. It could be sometimes I'm very passionate about evil or wrong that's happening around me, or about my own misbehavior, and I say, what I did yesterday was disgusting. The comment I made was bad. But sometimes I'm irreverent or just don't care. So it's on my feelings. I'm in the mood of this, I'm in the mood of that type of mood. I'm a holy mood, not a holy mood, whatever mood. So that is excusable in the sense that I'm a Beinoni. I didn't change my inner feelings or my inner character. But what about my action? That is in your hand every moment and every now. Elasur meravasa toiv, the Beinoni is expected only to his behavior stay away from evil and do good, b'poel mamish. But Maisa dibra machshava, in his action, his speech, and his thoughts. What are you doing? Feelings, that's for a tzaddik. The tzaddik worked on himself so much that he doesn't even have a desire for evil or even for physicality and the pleasures of the flesh. He doesn't even have a desire for that. But the Beinoni, we ask, we are not asking you to change your inner nature or to change your desires or to become holy and pure. We're asking of you to behave practically the way the Torah says. The mitzvahs are about what you should do or not do, not what you feel, not about your inner struggles. Now, what empowers the Beinoni to do that? So here's the key. It's a philosophical decree, it's a philosophical insight, or perhaps psychological insight, but it's fundamental in Judaism. Because there's free choice. Every man has free choice. We have free choice to go against our desires and our impulses and do the opposite. Even when the heart is lustful after a physical pleasure, whether it's a kosher desire, or an unkosher or a forbidden desire, or something, or a desire for something forbidden, heaven forbid, yachal hizgaber olasich datim, and lagamer, he can overcome it and put it out of his mind. So now let's talk a little about this. He's telling us how we're able to do it, because we have free choice. Now there's a big debate among psychologists and philosophers, is there such a thing as free choice? And there were those who argued there is no such thing as free choice, because the way our chemistry is, that's where we're going to end up. We may be complex, so therefore we have on one hand this type of urge and that type of urge. So the one that's going to be the stronger is going to prevail. And the more complex a person is, so there's going to be, so to say, the battle inside of him, and the victor is going to lead the man to where the stronger impulse takes him. That was the argument of the philosopher and the psychiatrist. Said there's no real free choice. We're not free. It's our chemical makeup. Sometimes the chemical makeup of one person drives him more, gives him more restlessness. It is psychological makeup. It is the way he was brought up in a certain direction by his parents, or his times, or his culture. And that is all of the ingredients that make up his character, and the strongest is going to prevail. And it's a logical argument. So therefore, what's free choice? How are we free? The way I was set up, that's the way I'm going to go. Now, on the other hand, it is on the other hand, the Rambam says it's one of the fundamentals of Judaism that we have free choice. And if we wouldn't have free choice, there wouldn't be reward and punishment. This is what Rambam says. He says it in his commentary on Perek Chelek, when he lists the 13 principles. He says it in the laws of Yesod HaTorah, in his halachic work, that it's fundamental to Jews that we have, and that it is our belief that we have free choice. So anything that has to do with doing right and wrong, we have free choice. Yes, we don't have free choice if we're going to have rich or poor or healthy or sick, but there's certain things we do have free choice, and that is to do right and wrong. For this, we have free choice. But over here, and in this itself is a debate between the philosophers and the psychologists, where most of both philosophers and psychologists are saying that we don't really have free choice because the criminal mind is because he has this type of cells and that type of cells, or that type of bringing, or the genes. His grandfather was a serial killer, so he's going to be a serial killer. Whatever that, all their arguments are saying. And what is interesting is that Hasidus has an interesting resolution to this clash of cultures, which, as I said before, Judaism say there is free choice, and they're making an argument that there is no free choice. And the way the Alter Rebbe, not in Tanya, but in Likutei Torah, the way he resolves this is that in the nature of things, we really are programmed by inherited traits and learned traits and so on. And that the science and that the philosophers and the psychologists do have a good argument. But Hashem certainly has free choice, because the nature of Hashem is unlimited and without any characterization. And Hashem took something of His and put it into man. The Alter Rebbe says, free choice is a godly quality that He put into us. So therefore, the argument of the philosophers and the psychologists is mute. Yes, if man is made up of chemicals and he is a recording, his mind, the cells in his brain are recording whatever he learned and inherited, and his DNA is programmed a certain way, yes, then there shouldn't be free choice. But there's more to man than his brain cells and his DNA and whatever was recorded in his memory. And that is the godliness that's in him, and that is the source of free choice. The source of free choice is just like Hashem is not limited and not boxed into any type of definition or situation. Hashem put part of that freedom of limitations in us. And that is what it means, free choice. Free choice means that you are free from being boxed into your desires and your lusts and all your mishigas. You can get out of the impulses and the lusts that are boxing you in. And that's, first of all, the most important. What he's saying is, the b'chira v'hayichayos harishus neshuna l'chol adam, even the Rasha, and therefore the Beinani. Right now, you could be a Beinani because you too were given this free choice. And now he's going to go into an interesting script. This is like a script. The next few lines is like a script of what one should meditate to give himself strength to overcome the challenge at a given moment. Now, meditation is very much part of Chassidus. So what should I think when I'm in a situation? The problem is that more often than not, we don't want to think. That is also a tactic of the Yetzer Hara, that we're in a situation which is sinful, we don't want to think. But the Alter Rebbe is saying, think. And perhaps we should think about this even in not a challenging moment. And he starts, Ba'amri lelibai. He should tell himself, literally, he should say to his heart. And he's going to write a script for the Beinoni, what he should say to himself, and think about and ideas that will help him overcome temptation and the challenge of the Yetzer Hara. And as I said before, meditation is something that was always part of Yiddishkeit. For example, the Rambam writes about the mitzvah of loving Hashem. And he says, how do you come to love Hashem? So you have to think and meditate about His greatness. Now that can mean a lot of things to different people. Some people see a beautiful sunset and they say, wow. They say nature's wonders, the Grand Canyon, they see Everest, they see a beautiful bird, and they're such poetic souls, and they say, wow. And they say, that brings them to love Hashem. Other people, they study Torah, and they see the depth of Torah, and they find meaning in Yiddishkeit that brings them to love Hashem. And each person has this thing of what brings them to love Hashem. So that's meditation. And the more Kabbalah and Chassidus is very much into meditation. It's not some Far Eastern experience. And here he's saying, Ba'amre lelibai. So what should the Beinoni, who is a guy who has struggled with himself, what should he say to himself? What should he meditate? And he writes a script. He's putting words in the mouth of this person. Eineni roitzeli yisrasha afilu shachas. He's putting like a quote. I don't want to be a Rasha even for one moment. Because I don't want to be separate from Hashem in any form. Ki eineni roitzeli ismuvdel v'nivrit chas v'shalom ma'ashem echad b'shem oifen k'diksiv avonei seichem avdilim v'goymer. The text says, sins separate us from Hashem. I want to connect to Hashem. So he's putting words into the mouth of the Beinoni. So let's understand the script. First of all, he's saying in first person, I don't want to be a Rasha. I don't want to be a Rasha. I don't want to be a sinner. I don't want to be evil. Which is interesting. Because most people don't want to be titled that. Different definition of what that is. But most people don't want to be labeled as evil or sinful or a goy or whatever term that you want to label them in a negative sense, identify them. I don't want to be a Rasha even for one moment. Because and he says, now there's another step here. because I don't want to separate myself from Hashem, and sin separates us from Hashem. Connecting to Hashem is blessing, separate from Hashem is what defines him to be a Rasha. So, there's two things I want to say over here, so to say, to the more modern ear than the Alter Rebbe's times. So the Alter Rebbe's times, most people, almost all were religious people, but they were struggling with their animal soul. So God was something taken for granted. But today, with all this culture that we're living in that sometimes mocks and maybe even antagonistic to religion and so on, but this still applies today. Because the truth is that Judaism, especially Hasidus, sees that every person deep inside wants to do what's right. In fact, it's a halach in the Rambam, who wasn't a Hasidic master. He lived hundreds of years before the Hasidic movement, and he wasn't considered a Kabbalist, even though some say at the end of his times he studied Kabbalah, and some say even earlier he was influenced by Kabbalah to a certain degree, but he was really the rationalist. And he says that deep inside, in the laws of Gershon, he says, deep inside every person wants to do what's right. Even if he's forced to do what's right, and he says, I don't want to do it, really he wants to do it. Because it's inherent in every person to do what's right. Every Yid for sure. It's inherent in him to do what's right. The Rebbe once pointed out to Professor Green in a letter that I saw a copy of, that from this Rambam you see the idea of subconscious centuries before Freud labeled that term. Because the Rambam is saying that the person says, I don't want to do this. And halacha is forcing him to do something, and the halacha is forcing him to do something, and saying, why? Because really he wants to do it because he wants to do what's right. It's concerning a divorce. He doesn't want to give a divorce to his wife, and halacha says, yes, this is such a case where he's obligated to give a divorce. So they can force him to give a divorce, and they make him say, I want to, and even though a divorce has to, a halachic divorce, the get, has to be given willingly, so it's considered willingly because deep inside he really wants to do what's right. It's just Yitzrei Hara Ansai, it is his ego and his evil inclination is possessing him at a certain level, but deeper inside he wants to do what's right. So therefore, when the Beinli is saying, I don't want to be a Russian, I don't want to separate myself from Hashem, even though it's possible at a certain conscious level, this person is, not so sure what he really wants, and not so sure about his values. But Torah looks at every person that he wants to do what's right. So therefore it is true in his subconscious programming that he doesn't want to be a Rasha, even though he says that he's a Rasha. But deep inside, even if first of all, possible that he knows it, but Torah says that even if he doesn't know it or refuses to recognize his own inner virtue, it's still there. So then it's subconscious, but it's still there. And the second point I think it's important to mention here is his lusts, his impulses, is part of him, part of his selfhood, But even deeper than that is his godly soul and his goodness. And this undermines the whole understanding of the subconscious that Freud talked about, or even the other psychiatrists. Because they speak about, especially Freud spoke about, what is the subconscious that's deep inside of a person? Pleasure. And they debated him, is it pleasure, is it power, is it this, is it that? Which we're not going into. But all of the psychiatrists, how deep did they dig into the human psyche? They dug deep, and they did reach an understanding that there is a subconscious, and everyone agrees on that. They're debating of what did they find. So Freud found the caveman who loves pleasure, and the other one found some power, or this or that. And the Rambam found a gem. That deep inside every person there is light, and his neshama, and he wants to do what's right, and a conscience, which means that even though he's driven by his impulses to be selfish and to satisfy his needs, even sometimes at the expense of others, and all I want to do is satisfy my needs or my pleasures or my interests, no matter what the consequences is. But that is only on one level. But deep inside, the Alter Rebbe is telling the script that a person should say and think about is that I don't want to be separate from right. I don't want to do what's wrong. I don't want to be separate from Hashem. I want to connect with Hashem, with all the levels of my neshama. I want to connect with Hashem with all the opportunities of the different mitzvahs, which are like garments. Like we learned in the earlier chapters, the first chapters of Tanya, that we can dress ourselves up in holiness, and that's the purpose of the mitzvahs, which is the practical application of Torah and mitzvahs. And the most important is not what's going on inside, but what we're actually doing. Ma'ava Musateres Shebeliva Lavaya, with the hidden love, or subconscious love. Here's also a term of subconscious, and it's an important principle, especially in a few chapters later. Every one of us has a hidden love or subconscious love that our neshama has to Hashem, that wants to connect to Hashem. So this Beinani, the script that the Alter Rebbe is putting in his mouth is, think that really you have a hidden love, and really deep inside you want to connect to Hashem, and you want to do what's right. And this is a general feeling of all of Israel. And all of Israel is called those who love Hashem's name, Oyavei Shemecha. So that is the title. The nation of Israel are called the lovers of Hashem's name, the lovers of Hashem. So even though a person at a given moment may not feel that, but this is what the Torah psychiatry, and especially the Kabbalah, laid down all of us on a couch, and he said, you, deep inside, there's a neshama that loves Hashem and wants to do what's right. No, I like this and I like that, and money, women, this, all the shagas. True, it's true. That's driving you crazy, but you should know that deeper inside, there's the will to do what's right. Now, so what I found over here interesting is 2 points that the Alter Rebbe is saying so far that empower us to overcome our Yetzer Hara. One is the freedom that is within our hands to be free from our impulses. That's the bechira, what he mentioned earlier. And now in the meditation he's saying another point. And also our inner desire of this desire of our subconscious is to do what's right. Think of it, these are really two things. Number one, I'm not boxed in. I don't have to be forever tied to my weaknesses. Because Hashem says that I put a little bit of Hashem in you, and just like Hashem is not boxed into anything, you have the capability of getting out of your box. That's number one. It's a freedom. It's a sense of freedom. That's what Shuvah comes from. That's what Yom Kippur is. Yom Kippur is that point that's in us to say, you're a sinner, you're not a sinner. Yes, you sinned, but you're not a sinner that you're boxed into the category. Here, I'm giving you a day, Yom Kippur, you can get free of that. This is a godly quality, and it could be all year in any moment. And now he's saying, there's another thing you have going for you. That there is also an inner subconscious that wants to do what's right. There is a programming in you, deep in you, that wants to do what's right and doesn't want to do what's wrong. And that's your inner self that has its own needs and its own expression, and ultimately it's going to have to be satisfied. And that's why you find many people who are very successful in the physical sense and they're depressed. Or they don't know what to do with their life. They think they have to make more investments, and find other entertainment, this type, that, and different, all these mishigasim. Because they don't know what to do with themselves. Why? So Chassidus made an analysis of a personality who likes to make money. So he wants to make money. So what's his goal? Become a millionaire. So he works very hard. I want to be a millionaire. So he has $1 million. Now what? He's still working. I want to be a billionaire. Now what? He's still I needed this type of yacht, that type of yacht, this, Mishigas, and then he's getting crazy and he's divorcing his 7th wife. He's running for president, whatever it is. So what's going on? So, at least by a yid, there's inside his neshama that inner spot that needs satisfaction. So he thinks it's he needs the $1 million. So he's running after the $1 million, but he's still not satisfied inside. But he thinks he's not satisfied because he wants $1 billion. So he's going after the $1 billion. But really, what's not satisfied is because inside a subconscious emptiness that's inside of him that needs satisfaction, and that's going to come from Torah, from mitzvahs, from Yiddishkeit, from purpose, and from meaning in life. So even if he has the $1 billion, he doesn't know what to do with himself. And then all these things that he's looking at, distractions, that he thinks he's going to be satisfied because he's going to taste this pleasure and that pleasure and travel here and travel there. And he's going to be satisfied temporarily, but only to a certain level. But deep inside his neshama needs to be satisfied. And that is the inner programming that we have. So therefore the Beinoni should meditate, and he's still writing the script for the Beinoni. That deep inside he wants to do what's right. And deep inside he has the inner love for Hashem. And even a Jew who is far could and did in the past give up. There were Jews who were very, who were not so quote unquote religious, and they gave up their life for Hashem. So they're not so committed religiously, and they didn't, in their daily life they weren't, so to say, on fire for Hashem. And when it came to the moment of the truth, you say you're a Jew or you're not a Jew, and they said I'm a Jew. That's it. And they got killed. They were ready to give up their life for Hashem. So this is, I think, also inconsistent with what he said in the beginning of the chapter. It's midas kol adam. It's every person is capable of that, because even the, so to say, lightweight Jews, many of them gave up their life. Why did they give up life? Because deep inside there is that neshama and that hidden love that is programming them, that they have that connection that has no limits and bounds, and that even means I'll give up my life for Hashem. So this is the script that he's saying to himself, the Beni, to overcome his temptation. So why is he here? Why is he being tested? Why is he attracted to sin? Why is he even thinking, maybe I should give in to temptation and give in to my impulses? So he has to say to himself, what is these impulses? What's this lust? This ego? What is the motivation of it? He should analyze himself. It is irrationality that is going on over here. Most people who mess up because of their lusts and impulses, it's irrational. It's ruach shtus. It's a spirit of foolishness or even insanity. He's being temporarily irrational or insane, a little bit insane. He should understand that by this sin, he's going to become like a piece of a guy. He's separating himself from the God of Israel. Every sin you do, you are disconnecting yourself. And therefore, you're thinking about the person who's ready to give up his life for Hashem. Oh, it's for Hashem, for his Jewishness. So if your Jewishness is so important, it's, Jewishness is made up of every moment of Jewishness. So if you're acting un-Jewish, this should be very strong to you that you should give up anything, make sacrifices for it. So therefore he should thinking, this is still the script of the Beinoni meditating, what am I doing over here? I have this impulse, I have this lust. This is irrational. My real self is saying to me, do good and do what's right, and that I'm committed, I'm ready to give everything for my Jewishness. So what is this impulse that's driving me crazy? He's forgetting his hidden love that he has. And therefore the script continues. He should say to himself, Avalani, I don't want to be the fool to do something so irrational, to deny the truth. So this is what the Beinoni should say to himself to overcome his Yetzer Hara. He has to meditate upon this idea: I have to become normal and logical and do what's right. That is my inner programming, and I'm not stuck in anything to do only to go after my impulses and so on. So that everyone is capable. He has freedom. He has the inner freedom to do that, and that is his inner self. So everyone could do that. That's why Beinoni is in the hands of everyone. But to be a tzaddik, that's not in the hands of everyone. Why? So he continues. Not as so things that you have to change your inner self. That has to do with the heart, not what you do, but what is your inner self. That you should be so developed in your personal development that you should be disgusted in evil, even if it's not an absolute disgust. So that takes a change in your inner self. That is not in the hands of everybody. To control yourself is in the hands of everybody. To change yourself in the inside, that is not in the hands of everybody. This cannot be truthfully only by a person who has a very deep love for Hashem, a spiritual person. This is only a person who takes pleasure in godliness. Pleasure is an inner feeling. Who takes pleasure in Hashem, something like in the world to come. A tzaddik is like living in the world to come, because he changed his inner self. Therefore he does, what's his high? The spirit. So therefore he is not attracted to physical pleasures. But that's a level for the tzaddik. Our sages say about such a personality, you saw the world to come in your lifetime. Not every man is going to merit to be that. This is like a reward that they're giving a person in his lifetime. That person worked on himself so hard, they're now helping him free himself totally from his animal soul, and he is feeling God thoroughly inside. That it's like a gift given to the kohanim, the priests. It's not because the kohanim necessarily merited to be the closest servants of Hashem in the temple. It was a gift that was given to them. So the tzaddik who's working so hard, Hashem gives him this gift. Now you have no more battle. You feel inside of you no sensation for physical pleasures, but just a sensation of godliness. So that is not in the hands of all of us. And now he's going to come to answer a question that he asked in the first page of Tanya, where the Gemara said, a quote from Eve, and the Gemara says, God created tzaddikim and God created Rishayim. God created people to be righteous, to be a tzaddik. And the question that was asked in the first page is, God created a person to be a tzaddik? But we have free choice. It's a we spoke before, it's a fundamental point of Judaism that you weren't created to be good or evil. This is up to you what you're going to be. As far as your spirituality, as far as your life's mission of good and evil. Everything else you have no choice. But good and evil is you have a choice. So what does it mean when the Gemara says that to Hashem, Eve says to Hashem, you created the righteous and you created the sinners. Hashem didn't create sinners. We created sinners by sinning, and we had a choice. And Hashem didn't create the righteous. We created the righteous because I have a choice to do righteous or not. So the answer he's going to give here is what we just explained. Yes, to do right and wrong is our choice. That is our behavior. And Torah Mitzvahs is all about behavior. Do right and don't do wrong. But the tzaddik that he's speaking about, that Eve was speaking about, that the Gemara is speaking about, that Hashem creates tzaddikim, means the person who's going to be successful in changing his inner self. We were not put in this world to become a holy man. He's giving a new Tanya gives a new definition of tzaddik. That tzaddik is not a person who is just doing right. You could be doing right and you're not on the status of tzaddik in its complete form if you're not a holy man. And that's why holy men, Hashem makes those people to become holy. Hashem gives them a gift that they are able to attain sanctity and holiness, to rid themselves of Yetzer Hara. But most people are not going to reach that. They're few and far in between. And that answers the question. Hashem didn't create tzaddikim because Hashem gave us Torah mitzvahs. That's what Hashem said. Hashem gave all of us Torah mitzvahs. What's Torah mitzvahs? Do what's right and don't do what's wrong. That's behavior. That's your actions. That's your actions. That's what Torah mitzvahs is. Not, Hashem didn't say, have no lust in your heart. Have no impulses. That we don't have much of a choice. We can work on ourselves. We're going to find ourselves. The real Beinoni, refine himself to the degree that at least when he davens, he's on fire with Hashem. He has a real love for Hashem on the inside. But afterwards, his impulses and his lusts and his ego comes back to him in his head, but he doesn't act on it. So what does Hashem want from him? He wants him to be a warrior. And that's what he continues. In Tikunim is a section of the Zohar, Tikunei Zohar, Sheyesh B'Neshamis Yisrael, Kama Mina Madregis Abchinas. And in the Zohar he says that in the house of Israel, there are many different personalities and characters and levels and qualifications. And the Alter Rebbe says, Chasidim, that's extra pious. Giboirim, warriors. Hamiskaber mal Yitzram, who overcome the Yetzer Hara. Morei Torah, masters of Torah. Nevi'im, chulu, tzadikim, chulu, ein sham. So there's different personalities. It's like Hashem has an army. The army has different divisions. There's the Air Force. There's the Navy. There's artillery. There are the paratroopers. So, which is important? Everyone is important. You can't win a war with the Air Force. You can't win a war win a war with the Navy. You have to have the infantry. The infantry is not going to win a war without an Air Force. You have artillery. Yeah, you have to have a whole army, and you have to have the cooks. You have to have the medics. Hashem has a whole orchestra. It's like an orchestra. In an orchestra, there are the violinists, then there's the drums, then there's the air instruments, then there's the cymbal, then there's everything. So, an orchestra, you ask a master who's running a symphony orchestra, you tell him, let's get rid of a few violinists. He says, no, how can you make this Tchaikovsky or this, Beethoven with only 17 violinists? It's not the same. And you say, but what do you need? This guy at the end gives, ching, he gives the thing. But no, how can? What do you mean? That's the whole climax is the guy doing that. Hashem made tzaddikim. They're the holy ones. And then they're the people who their whole life are going to be struggling. That's all. Hashem made them what they are, and He says to them, I gave you Torah mitzvahs, do what's right. And in a later chapter, the Alter Rebbe says, you have no idea what pleasure Hashem has from the regular guys every time they overcome the Yetzer Hara. Every time they overcome the Yetzer Hara, so they move their eyes away from something that's not kosher. They refrain from eating something that's not kosher. They refrain from speaking what's not kosher. So, and they're doing right. They're going out of a way to give comfort to a broken heart. But I'm not in the mood. I hate this cousin. I don't want to go to visit them. So you get up and go. And you go against your Yetzer Hara. That is what all of time is about. Have a good night.